We knew how we were going to find these clients. We had lists that we were building. We had target accounts. And then it was just guerrilla warfare after that. I mean, man-to-man combat. We would reach out as many different places as we could, LinkedIn, email, phone. And it was, I would say, more aggressive play. And I think that is not uncommon in the software space, especially when you have huge sales teams. You go hunt.
Welcome to the Digital Agency Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Englander.
So today on the show, I'm very excited to welcome Brooke MacLean. So Brooke is a storyteller, strategist, and builder. As the CEO of Marketwake, an award-winning digital marketing agency, Brooke has built a team that serves clients across the globe. Under her leadership, Marketwake has grown into one of the most respected agencies in the Southeast, earning a place on Inc. 5000's fastest-growing businesses list 5 years in a row and being named one of Inc.'s best places to work for 4 consecutive years. So, Brooke, great to have you on the show.
I'm so glad to be here. What a great way to start the week.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've built, a pretty successful agency. I forget how many employees you guys are at now, but can you talk a little bit about how you got started there and what it took from the beginning?
So much effort. We're almost 80 employees now. We started in 2017. I was the CEO of a tech company before this. And at the time, I didn't have an idea that Marketwake was going to take off the way that it took off. I almost thought that this was going to be a stepping stone in whatever I found next. And then it just got a life of its own. Growth has been wildly organic. I mean, one client after another, slowly but surely breaking our way through from small businesses into enterprise. We started in tech. Very SaaS driven, and now we're very focused on retail and B2C. So, I mean, there's just been so many evolutions of the business, as I'm sure many agency owners can understand.
Yeah, for sure. And just so people have context, just real high level, can you talk a little bit about, what you guys do and who you're working with and so on?
Yeah, probably very helpful. We have 2 houses, the creative house and then the performance house. We're full service agency. So our creative house works with branding, messaging, go-to-market strategies, website. Who are you speaking to and why do they care? And then our performance house is all about how do they even hear about you? It is a lot of paid media. We do a ton of paid media for our clients, content, SEO, social media influencers, email. We're platinum partners with HubSpot. We work with MailChimp. I mean, we have a RevOps department because at the end of the day, we have to track back all of our results to leads and revenue and reporting. So, I mean, there have just been departments that have added on because once we find a need with several of our clients, it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to fill that need. And then our clients really range. I mean, we work everyone with Yamaha, Watercraft, University of Georgia, Machete Jewelry. It really runs a gamut. But a lot of what our clients, the industries that they fall into, healthcare, wellness, beauty, retail, those.
Yeah, that's cool. And I want to dig into a lot more about what you guys are doing on the biz dev front and what's worked, what hasn't. I guess just real quick before we do that, you talked about kind of going from tech into the agency world, which is a little bit different because usually we see the opposite. Agency owners have shiny object syndrome with everything tech's doing. So can you talk about that a little bit? How did you transition from one world to the other?
Yeah, it was crazy. The company that I was with before, I was actually brought in to be the CEO as an interim CEO while it was going through a pivot. And it was hard. We were sunsetting a platform, introducing a net new one, having to rebrand, migrate clients off, and then bring new ones on. And the difference there is, I mean, tech and software, it's very sales driven in terms of we had BDRs, we had AEs, there was a process. We knew how we were going to find these clients. We had lists that we were building, we had target accounts, and then it was just guerrilla warfare after that. I mean, man-to-man combat. We would reach out as many different places as we could, LinkedIn, email, phone. And it was, I would say, more aggressive play. And I think that is not uncommon in the software space, especially when you have huge sales teams. You go hunt. And it was very much a hunter mentality. When I transitioned, once we got that to a good place and positive, my job there was fulfilled. And I was trying to figure out, okay, am I going to be another hired gun? Am I going to go be a CEO somewhere or start my own thing? And started Marketwake. At first, I just had one or two clients that I was doing more consulting with. I didn't necessarily have this idea of full service agency, but to hire a bunch of people. But I could consult. I had lived some lives at that point in time. And then through the consulting, I realized I had a love and a passion for marketing, specifically figuring out how marketing could really drive meaningful business results. And I started having fun, and I hadn't had fun in a long time. It had been a while since I had had fun in business, and I started loving it. The creativity, problem solving, figuring out new ways to reach new audiences. And then sales and services, wildly different. It is not hunter. For me, I know everyone's a little bit different. For me, it is very relationship focused. They are long plays. There are people that I've known for years that I am just now getting on as clients because it's just taken a very, very long time to build the depth of the relationship needed in order. And also I understand when you hire an agency, you're putting a lot of trust in that agency and a lot on their plate, especially a full service agency like us.
Yeah, and I think that gets taken for granted a lot where, somebody's job is very much on the line most of the time with an agency hire, with most agency hires. So I think I want to dig into that. I definitely want to get into the relationship focus because that's a lot of what we're seeing as well. One thing that you said that I think is really interesting, though, is going from a funded tech background, whether they're funded or not is not super important, but like running BDRs and that kind of thing to the agency sales game. So can you talk a little bit about that, and specifically like what were you able to transfer from one world to the other, and what is the stuff you had to throw by the wayside?
No. What we transferred was a mentality that this is going to be hard. And I think that going in and having that mentality in sales is really important. To think that, oh, I'm going to get the one big whale and that's going to answer all my problems. That's just a fallacy. That's not the case. You get the one big whale and you need 15 more. The other aspect is I had a goal of never letting one client be more than 15% of my revenue for Marketwake. I came from a company that was funded, and I have bootstrapped Marketwake. We have done this entirely organically from day one without investors and without debt. And that is hard. When you have a client that is over 15% of your revenue, you start running some risks and having revenue that's too concentrated in one area or one client, and when they leave, then threads just start unraveling, right? And I see it. I saw it so many times with different agency partners that we worked with when I was a CEO at the other company, where maybe one client would leave, then all of a sudden my entire account team would be gone, and I didn't want that to happen to us, and I didn't want to have to do a layoff in the event that just a single client were to leave. They have the option to do that, whether it's because we messed up or they just timing shifted or maybe they got acquired. It doesn't matter why they left. We should go in assuming that not every client is going to be here for a lifetime. And it just put a ton of pressure. Every time we'd get that one big whale, right? It's like, okay, well, if they're inching up close to that 15%, then I need to go hunt more and figure out how we're going to offset that. And to this day, so far, we have not had a client reach over 15% of our revenue. It's been wildly distributed. But that was a rule that I put in place that I think was maybe unique at the time. I don't think that I realized how it would benefit us.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's kind of funny because it's like it's been that way for a while, and I think that a lot of the times a lot of agencies have still kind of inherited like the inertia from the old agency days, which was like, hey, you'd have a client and they're with you from like for years, but that's definitely not the case. So it sounds like you've taken this sort of like sales mentality, for lack of a better word, this idea that you need to have lots of clients to diversify and to like stay safe, and that's been a huge advantage. So that's really cool. Kind of shifting to the relationship focus, this is like what we're seeing all the time with agencies too, and like helping them go beyond like the sort of reactive systematic referrals that come like rain into like making it more of an irrigation system where you're like, hey, here are the people we want to meet, here's the relationships we already have, and like what can we do to further that. So can you talk about that a little bit? You mentioned in the early days kind of acting as a consultant and then continuing to grow from these old relationships. Can you talk about more of like what that's looked like for you at the agency?
In terms of just how we've gone from more of the consultative approach to
Yeah, in terms of new business, basically, and growth.
business. We've tried. There's so many things that we've tried. Okay, happy hours and gift giving and whining and dining and more happy hours and more whining and dining and more handwritten notes. And I mean, we've gotten as creative as you can be. And really, I think what it comes down to is like authenticity, though. How many times can you actually meet with someone and be authentically you? Because the more authentically you can be, the more they're going to trust the process. For me as a CEO, I know that I'm not going to be the one doing the work. We've got almost 80 people here, and I never want a point of contact to feel like that bait and switch, where, oh, I got sold by the CEO and they promised me all of these things, and then I got handed off to a junior. I want them to trust the entire process. So one of the things that we have done, which is wildly helpful, is bring on basically the entire account team into the sales process. It is time consuming. This is, and there, I got a lot of pushback from this, right? Because I'm taking people off the work, bringing them into sales conversations that may or may not pan out. But the more a new lead, a prospect, even just an acquaintance can get to know my entire team, not just me, the better the sale goes, because they realize pretty quickly, oh yeah, I don't want Brooke. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about anymore. She runs the business. Like, she's definitely not the best suited. And then they get really, really excited about their account team. And so, yeah, it's time consuming, but I think it makes the sales process shorter and then the entire handoff a lot smoother, because the point of contact knows who they're speaking with. They have started a relationship. They knew who was in the room, and there's less of a gap. I'm sure people can relate to this, but when it was just me doing sales, I was the worst at doing a clean handoff. I'd get the sale done and be like, okay, guys, trust you. You got it. Like, let's go. They'd be like, what did you talk about? What did you talk about in the sales process? Are we going to repeat these questions? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Sure, probably. And I was just running in the early days from one to the next. And I learned pretty quickly that the sales to team doing transition, really important, real important. I missed it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think we've heard that from other interviews and other agency owners we talk to. A lot of the times it's developing a process that's expensive but profitable, basically, at the end of the day. Can you talk more a little, like, let me just double click on that a little bit. Like, what does that process look like? Like, how is the handoff happening? What have you sort of learned and optimized? If that makes sense.
We bring in, depending on what kind of account it's going to be, whether it's a project or a retainer or creative or performance, we'll bring in the right people, the strategist, the leads, and then ideally the account owner, just to start asking questions to really get to know the team. And then even in the proposal process, instead of it, we definitely, I'm curious, maybe one day we can get into more of a templated approach to how we sell, but right now it is still fairly custom with the types of work that we're doing. So even in the proposal process of figuring out what is the best fit for a client, having all of these different experts and voices from the very get-go completely transforms the proposal to be way better suited. Because think about it, when someone is coming to you and looking for an agency, they probably don't know exactly what they need. That is why they're coming to an agency. They cannot say, I need X, Y, and Z by this date. I mean, they can give you overarching goals, but the how you get there and the what you do really is up to you. And that's a huge part of the pitch and a huge part of the sales process, to listen to, interpret their needs, and then reflect back what you think is best, having such little information. So bringing in the broader team helps us get into a room and ask a lot of really smart questions of, how have they done this before? Do we have access to this platform? Let's do some research, put our heads together, build something that we think is the best foot forward. And I think it's prevented us from having a lot of rescoping and change orders, because no one likes that. So the more people that we get involved early on in the process, I feel like the better situated everyone is, even though it is time consuming, but it's also the win, right? Like, when it's just me selling, I get the high of the win, and then I pass it off to the team. When they're a part of the high of the win, they serve that client better anyway. So I feel like for us, it's a win all the way around.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just for a little bit of context, can you talk about the sale, quote unquote, sales team? Is it just you, or are you bringing in other people to help specifically with new business? And what does that look like?
We do. We've got a team of about 4 to 5, though I do a lot of the closing at the end. So in expanding out that team, what it's looked like is really just relationship building. Like it's what events can we be at? Who can we take out to coffee? Who knows who knows who knows who needs what? Again, like I was saying, sometimes you're in a conversation with someone at a coffee just to catch up. You're talking about maybe the kids' sporting events, and you realize, wow, your biggest problem is something that we can actually solve, so you can go play, hang out, and watch your kids go to practice. Let us take that off of your plate so you can go do what you actually care about. Sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's professional. But the more people that we have building relationships and letting other people out there see the type of people that we are and hire, I mean, the better things are. And I don't know, I just like people. I think people are awesome and hilarious, and they give me all kinds of fodder for stories later. So the more that I'm out there with them, and same thing with our business development team, the more they're out there, the better we are.
Right. That makes sense. And what I think is interesting is it seems like biz dev is still a core part of what you're involved in, and you're still kind of working on it all the time, even though you have.
I should put it down, but I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's important, I think. I think there's a lot of people listening that might still kind of be in the weeds of biz dev, or their owners kind of like tasked with it for a long time. We've seen owners go wrong trying to outsource it or get it off their plates too early before they have like the systems built for leads and all that stuff. So you're doing it because you like it, which is the best reason to do it. Can you talk a little bit about, like, if you wanted to, what would it take? What do you feel like it would take if you had to get out of the biz dev seat? Like, could you do it now? And what systems would need to be in place if not, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I could 90% of the way, but I really do like it. What we've built is we have someone in ops who's our ops lead, who basically does triage. Gets on the first phone call, understands what they're looking for, unless it came in through one of my network. What are they looking for? What do they need? And then their job is to get the right people on the next call. That group of people, the strategists, they're the ones who facilitate building that scope, doing the pitch, and then really coming to me to just say, hey, gut check pricing. Is this right? Is this accurate? Is there anything that we left out? Anything that we missed? Because pricing, man, that's the $1 million question. Figuring out the right pricing model across the board. We have plenty of tools and plenty of spreadsheets, and it is still a little bit of an art. So training that part, I feel like once we get to a point where people have that like intuition and gut feel where they can prescribe some of that art to it, we'll be in a better place. But right now, I mean, about 90% of what I used to do is now done by the team. And then the woman who's in charge of ops, her job is also traffic management. And I think that was a secret sauce for us. We're always trying to figure out after the fact, what was the resource going to be? What's resourcing? What's timeline? Who has what capacity and when? The fact that she's the one doing the triage call, she can go ahead and start playing the traffic game ahead of time. She knows exactly who has availability, what capacity looks like, if we need to hire, when we need to hire. So having her at the very beginning of the sales process was really a catalyst to us being able to close a lot more and a whole lot faster.
Yeah, I'm really glad you talked about that, because like one thing I've sort of noticed in my own business and then also in clients is like, when you have a sense of scarcity and urgency to work with you that's actually real,
Yeah.
There's something intangible about it. Like, you sell it better, you convey it better, versus like, we've all seen the classic BS sales tactic where it's like, oh, there's 5 spots and 20 of them are filled up, or it's like, versus like, hey, here's our capacity, we have this spot here, if not, it's going to have to be this time. Feels very real. So I guess my question is, like, does that resonate with you? Has that making it real helped your sales process, and if so, how?
We do, because it's honest. Hey, I know that you said that you want your timeline, you want this project to be delivered by X date. We would have to get started right here. Let us show you why. We'll show you the Gantt chart. We'll show you the process. This is not a gimmick. This is not a trick. Like, this literally is capacity planning. If you're okay with pushing it, then this is what it looks like. And then people start to realize, oh yeah, my sense of time might be a little off, or we should get started on this early. We have so many people who come to us and they'll say, oh yeah, we made this project done in 2 months. And we're okay, great. Let us back into what 2 months looks like. It's going to take about 2.5 weeks for us to get this deal done and signed and scoped, and then onboarding and then research. And that's basically the 2 months. And like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. So just having a sense of time in the sales process and educating on a sense of time is really important. We will obviously want to go as quickly as possible. And sometimes realities don't always align.
Yeah, and it's so funny because we've all learned like BANTs, budget authority, need time frame, like all these qualification check boxes, but like time for me anyway has become like the most important thing. It's like the thing that brings everything else along with it. It definitely has like a bigger part of the pie than the others, in my opinion. And also you could like broad frame that to like business and life. Like you have all these complex task management, productivity systems. It's like just have this calendar that shows you how little time you have throughout the year. Once you take out vacations and holidays and stuff, that's like, oh wow, it's like humbling, and you can get stuff done that way. So I think that's interesting.
Time is a snail's pace until I feel like May, where it just feels like you've got the entire year ahead of you. It's amazing. And then after that, the year's done every time.
Yeah. Yeah, that I definitely agree. So to double click on something else, maybe nerd out a little bit. So you've talked a lot about kind of like mid or later funnel parts of the process, when there's that opportunity there. You have 4 to 5 people involved in biz dev. Can you talk a little bit more about like how are they finding these relationships? How are they building them? Like top of funnel, what's working for you guys these days?
Top of funnel is like I was saying, is a lot of relationship, but we also have a list of target accounts. I mean, within MarketWake, we offer account-based marketing for our clients, and we have whole systems around what account-based marketing looks like in different platforms and methodologies. So we deploy that ourselves for ourselves. We have a list of target accounts, figure out who knows who knows who knows who. So it is still a very relational game. And then what do ads look like? Targeted content. Every once in a while, we'll actually take on kind of a passion project and use that to say, we know that you never hired us to do this. This is what we would do if you were to do that, without even being asked, just to show we're willing to go above and beyond. It's just being creative, which I wish there was a silver bullet. But in the account-based marketing, it really is how many times can you get in front of a company before someone finally turns their head? It's a timing game, and it's a frequency. And I think, I mean, this is a podcast. So what is the stat on how many podcasts only make it to 10 episodes?
It's a lot. Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's like north of 80, 90 or something.
Yeah, it's like 90% never get past 10 episodes. And if you can actually push past 10 episodes and you get to the point of being consistent, okay, that consistency is what drives results and drives success. It's the same thing with account-based marketing. So it's a lot of relationship building. And I will also say, I am relentless when it comes to time with people. It is about every day I'm having 1 to 2 coffees every night. 3 or 4 times a week I'm doing either a cocktail or just a dinner meeting with someone. It takes time, and if you're not willing to invest that amount of time into it, you have to know that the results are going to lag. It's a long tail game. So I put a lot of time into my relationships, and I probably every month am texting and or meeting with 250 people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have a part in my book where I'm basically like, it's the full day principle, which is like, you're kind of spending a full day with your main prospect, even if it's spread out between like a 30-minute call, content they're going through, whatever it is, especially, and then that's probably going up as the deal size gets bigger and as you're getting to a position where, hey, somebody could actually get fired if you really screw something up. So I think definitely agree with all that. Can we nerd out on ABM a little bit more? Will you do that with me? Cool. So we're doing ABM for clients, like building account lists and that kind of thing. And we're always kind of iterating on how broad or specific to go in terms of title. Oftentimes with referrals, when we can find a way in with a referral, will encourage clients to go a little bit broader, because the idea is like you'll have more ways of getting into the same account while making sure that the person's still within whatever marketing, they're senior enough, they're not an intern, etc. That's how we're doing it. I love to hear like what's working for you guys. How broad or specific are you typically going in terms of titles?
Yes, absolutely. We do go a little bit broad because every company's concept of titles is a little bit different. Sometimes we're hired by the communications team, sometimes by the brand team, sometimes by the performance team, by the demand gen team, sometimes by the director. So it really, really depends. And same thing when we're working with our clients. You also never know internally who is going to get a promotion, who's going to have a lateral move, especially when you're talking enterprise. People bounce around departments all the time. And again, not to say you want to be spending time and money on people who are completely irrelevant to the process, but opening up just a little bit and then having really solid processes and messages and funnel retargeting in that to say, all right, who looked at what are they interested in? Are there unique pathways for each type of role, or at least an aggregate of those roles? What are we retargeting them? Is there videos, their emails, their LinkedIn? What kind of ads are they seeing? And then really understanding who's engaging most. And then if there's an uptick, like that's what I always like to see too, of, oh, all of a sudden this role that we didn't necessarily expect is engaging with our content way more than it would have before. That sometimes led to us know that maybe we had the role wrong to begin with. And they title themselves differently than what you would expect an enterprise to title themselves. Titles, and also in digital marketing, new titles pop up all the time. Every
GTM, that's the new one, right?
Yes, that's the new one. And then RevOps came, and then we've got AI titles now. Like there's just so many titles that randomly pop up. It's doing yourself a disservice to stay too narrow without having the knowledge of how companies title.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then, as you get to bigger companies, they become like their own little worlds where they have their own naming. It's like A doesn't equal B. A in one company could equal something else completely. So that totally makes sense. One thing that I think is attractive to lots of agencies, pretty much everybody in B2B, is intent data. We've seen, definite overvaluing sometimes, but let me not bias you. Like, what's been your experience with intent data? Like, what do you like about it, or is it limited, etc.?
Intent data is very interesting. It tells a story. It does not tell the whole story, but it does show it. It is an indicator of a level of interest that can be leveraged, and I think only when it's looked at an aggregate, you can drill in as much as you want, but I mean, you don't know your own behavior. Sometimes you're just clicking around and you don't even know necessarily what you're selecting or how you're selecting it. So we like to take a step back and say, hey, how can we aggregate this data? Dashboards are really important here. And is there a story or a pattern that we can figure out about a type of person, a type of role, a type of industry maybe, and then let's leverage that. But sometimes when you get too narrow with intent data, you're creating a story that doesn't exist, and it's a bizarre self-fulfilling prophecy, and maybe you're leading people down the wrong path. So yes, the details are important, but like also zoom out just a little bit to look at true patterns, not just individual behavior.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Is there anything that comes to mind as like, hey, I wouldn't have thought this, that is, but it's panning out a certain way based on the data that you've seen?
Well, you can start to understand. So for instance, if you're working with an enterprise company who just had a quarterly update or a quarterly report, like an earnings report, whether or not you were on it or know what was said, you can start to see what they feel as a company is important, because the types of content that they're looking for starts to change. And typically when an earnings report comes out, there's a lot of indicators that they tell to their employees, maybe not the external shareholders, of this is our focus, these are our goals, this is what will make us a success. And then all of the employees, obviously, ideally, if they're good and care, they start figuring out the research needed in order to meet whatever goals were set. So we pay attention to when those earnings reports come out and then monitor what change of behavior happens. So I think things like that, to say what drives behavior internally at a company, because everyone learns at a different rate, but what is a big pattern or a big moment of a punctuated change that we can then have more of a control group to understand what might be their focus.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think a lot of people listening are like, oh, this is amazing. We need to start using intent data. But I think one thing to call out is like you have a team of 4 to 5. You have a lot of kind of hands on deck looking at this stuff. One question is there sort of an 80-20 to it? Like if it was just you or maybe you and one person helping you, is there like one thing or one signal you'd be looking at in terms of intent data?
Yes, time on site is one that I look at a lot, of how many different pages and how long are they spending on the site. If it's a quick bounce, obviously, I mean, it's elementary, but they may or may not have even meant to. And then how long are they watching a video? We try to do video as much as possible. I will say, if you're not doing video in 2026, you're missing a huge opportunity, just because that is the way that people are consuming information and learning, and it tells you so much. How long did they watch? What were they interested in? Did they download it? Did they rewatch it? Did they rewind it? That level of information is really important. And people are consuming it more audibly now instead of reading. They have ChatGPT to give them bullets. So ChatGPT is kind of becoming the new eyes. We're not seeing people spend as long on blogs because they're going to ChatGPT and they're getting the quick cliff notes, if you will, but they are putting videos on and even letting them play in the background while they work, or they're paying attention to it as they're scrolling. So I think video is really, really important.
Yeah, and the way that I'm thinking about it is like the blog or the site it's pretty much just an audience of robots and like people that are ready to convert and like talk to you. There's not a lot of delta between the two unless you have a huge site or something. So that all makes sense. To shift gears a little bit, I'd love to talk about referrals and strategic partnerships. I can lay out kind of what we've seen work first, and I love to compare notes. But basically, like what we're doing for clients and ourselves is going ABM. So we're like building out all the data inside of their LinkedIn profile so that they know who they're going after. So that would be like figuring out everything we just talked about, accounts, that broader spectrum of titles, etc. And then it's a little bit of like, when you have like all this food in your pantry, but you forgot about it, and then you end up like buying the same thing again and wasting all this time.
Spices, spices are the worst.
Spices, whatever, pasta, bread that goes bad, etc. It's kind of, I mean, this is a cheesy metaphor because people are not that, but like it's a little bit like that with these relationships that we forgot about, where it's like, hey, we have all these fake connections that we're trying to nurture, but they're essentially just cold. What if you were to take stock of like everybody that you know and have forgotten about that you would ask for help from or would be able to get a referral from? So sometimes that's like prospects, partners, clients that have moved on, whatever it is. And that ends up being what we found is like 2 to 10% of LinkedIn connections. So if you have like a salesperson that's thousands, that's potentially hundreds of people. And then from there, it's just about cross-referencing them and kind of creating the situation where you have another metaphor, get ready for it, like a metal detector on a beach. So you're like, hey, this person has 50 connections to the people I want to meet. Probably a better way to network is like with that person as opposed to just some other person that may or may not be willing to help me. But then from that, like the game changers going from, hey, do you know anyone, which creates so much homework for the other person, to here are the people I'm hoping to meet, do you know one or two of them? And let me know how I can help you as well. So that's what we're seeing to work. And like, it's a high, it takes time. It's high touch, high leverage, just for going after bigger opportunities, bigger accounts. It's not something you automate, but if you can get on like 1 or 2 of these calls a week, it's huge. That's our process. We'll love to hear kind of like what's worked for you guys. That makes sense.
I was going to ask you too.
Yeah.
Do you do that for the people that you want to meet? Let's say you have a list of 10 people. What are you saying to them when you're like, this is one of the 10 people that I do want to meet?
You mean on the connector call?
Yeah.
On the call with the person? Great question. So first off, like having the conversation is important 9 times out of 10. Like if you just hit them up over email and say, hey, here's all the people I want to meet, like nothing will probably happen unless you have an existing referral relationship, and that's normal. So usually what it is honestly just going in super honest and direct and saying like, hey, like would love your perspective. I'm trying to meet people in the space. Saw you might know a few. I want to see how I can help you as well. And then getting on a call with them. And then from there, it's collaborative. So it's like it's basically like giving them a menu of options, because chances are they're not going to know everybody, and or they may not feel comfortable with the intro. But
Right.
when you make it easy and you give them all the options, then the chances that you're going to get, a couple go up a lot. And then from there, it's like sending them an intro template, giving them gratitude, whether it's
Mm.
notes, small gifts, etc. So it's really like the same thing we see our clients doing anyway. It's just doing it in a more directed way.
Yeah.
That's how we're thinking about it. Yeah.
I love that. One of the things that I've done that has been really effective, which is kind of wild. Uh, what events are you hoping to go to in 2026? And
Yep.
tell me, like, are you not? And I think that has been such a warm entry. I haven't tried it before. This is relatively new, but it's been very effective. Of just, hey, what events are you looking for? And it's like if it's HubSpot inbound, well, that tells me a lot about maybe some of their priorities. Or
Yep.
if it's a creative one, then that tells me a little bit about their priorities. And, oh, who's going? Are you looking to fill roles and going? Are you looking to educate yourself? And it just like it's a warm entry into a conversation. So that's been new. I've been trying it over the past several weeks, and it's been really, really helpful and very effective.
Yeah, I love that. I think you've like stumbled into something that we've seen work as well, because it's like the event also kind of sub communicates like I am a real person and I will probably see you at this event, whether you like it or not, which is like in a world of, AI spam, that goes a long way. So
Mhm.
that's cool. So how is that is your sales team kind of doing the same thing, or how are they kind of using approaches like this, if that makes sense?
We all try to ask a tangible "I'm a human" question of what events are you going to? What are some of the trends that you're seeing in 2026? We're working on a benchmark report, which we do put out. Just real tangible questions and the other thing that's helpful is going back to what I said earlier, like being authentic. What works for me, I have a unique personality. It is not going to work for all of the others on my team. It's just not. Everyone is a totally different vibe. So their questions really need to be reflective of the experience that they're going to have if that person has coffee with them. And that's what I always say is like what works for me might not work for you. Your job is to be consistent and authentic. So when they see your LinkedIn message and they have a coffee with you or a Zoom with you, they're not going to say, who in the world wrote this or who's this person? Your personality should really shine through as much as possible because everyone connects differently with different personalities. And half this game is chemistry, man. It is.
Yeah.
It is a lot of chemistry. I mean, we can talk the brass tacks and transaction all day long. Yes. And some of it is just the spark of what if can we dream together for a second? And I always love that when the chemistry is right, you get the what if, you start to dream together. That's when I know I'm like, okay, we've got something, we're in the right direction. And sometimes, I don't know, the conversations fall flat and it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that. To kind of click into that a little bit more, there's probably, lots of people listening that are like, I'm not an extrovert. I'd be scared to ask somebody for help, like through a referral, because I'd be scared that I'd be like, taking something from them. Um, from your team that you can think of, if you have any examples, that's great. That might be a little more introverted. Like, what's worked for them? How have they made this process work?
Oh, absolutely. We have some people on the team who are still in the biz-dev role, but they're definitely more introverted. What works for them is I need your advice about something, or was curious about this one question and just getting some insights across the board. Instead of asking for referrals, they're asking that direct person. I think if I asked them to ask for a referral, they would just literally go white in the face. And then there's others that are completely fine with it. And they're like, oh my gosh, the more the merrier. Can I host a party? So it's also figuring out how to measure success differently because each person is going to be a little bit unique. And I do think that is what's hard about it. Was hard in software also, but just having this flat measurement of what makes someone in biz dev successful, it's a little bit unique, and I don't have the same measurement. I mean, at the end of the day, results speak for themselves, but activities towards those results are very, very different. And I allow them to be very, very different. So yeah, the ones that are a little bit more introverted, they're asking questions. It's a lot more in writing. They're finding unique ways to engage, but they're not necessarily asking for help or support in a referral sense.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I guess like have you been able to get data towards the success of one approach versus the other? Like the introverts, extroverts, is there one that's leading, or and how's it panning out?
They're both really, really successful because there's so many buyers who are also introverts.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we do at events for the introverts, we'll have either a happy hour or some sort of area where introverts can meet introverts, or we'll reach out to them and be like, hey, one of my introverts might say, hey, I'm going to be at this event. I'm going to be exhausted by this time. I know this great restaurant. If you just want to sneak out, that language, if you want to sneak out and meet up for a coffee, happy to do so. Buyers are extroverts and buyers are introverts. So I don't know if one here at least has been more successful than the other. It's just finding their path forward and finding the person who connects with them the best.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like you've kind of created this environment of like autonomy to some degree and free reign, and it's worked out.
Yeah, it is. Again, it's hard to measure in SaaS or software or tech sales. I think that there might be more need for uniformity. Where in agency life and in services, we need that less. For me,
Right, because it doesn't take much for it to go ROI positive, but it takes something. So
right.
that makes a lot of sense. Kind of getting towards the end of our time, can you talk about just kind of goals for the agency? Just kind of like, doesn't have to be monetary, but like where you guys are at now and where you're looking to go in the next 12 months.
Yeah, we acquired our first software last year. I knew I would get back into it eventually. So we're growing this software company within the confines of our services business, which has been quite a journey and probably a podcast in and of itself. And for us, our goal over the next 12 to 18 months is 2 or 3 more acquisitions. That is, we've realized going through this one process, it was our test, that we loved it. It taught us a lot about ourselves. It taught us a lot about the market, taught us a lot about what growth can look like. So we're definitely looking at M&A opportunities. And I think our culture is unique. We like each other. We have a lot of fun. We travel together. We hang out a lot. So I always say I think the world needs more Marketwake, not less. So we're looking to keep growing.
Cool. And I'm sure we could do a whole other episode on acquisitions and what you've learned from that, and hopefully we could choose. Yeah, I can imagine.
I would do things differently, and I will next time.
That's very intriguing. So Brooke, with that, where can people go to follow what you're up to and get in touch?
Absolutely. Go to marketwake.com. That is marketwake.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Brooke MacLean on LinkedIn, or just email me, brooke@marketwake.com. We'd love to talk.
Awesome. We'll get that linked up. Brooke, thanks again. Really appreciate it.
You too.